Okay, so our next to last presenter today is Jack Chism. Jack lives in Huxley and attends Ballard High School. He is the son of Sharon and John Chism. The title of his project is Ballard Turning Point, USA.
Good afternoon, and thank you for considering me to be, for nominating as one of the Hoover 2020 Uncommon students. Let us remember that the great human advances that have been brought about, no great human advances have been brought about by mediocre men and women. They were brought about by distinctly uncommon men and women with vital sparks of leadership. Many of these great leaders were, it is true, of humble origin, but that was not their greatness. A quote from Herbert Hoover from his 1948 speech on the uncommon man. Our 31st president has a Herculean legacy because of his uncommon will to improve the common good. I call this his Hoover mentality. Every time he would notice an issue, he would address it head on. My favorite example of Herbert Hoover's humanitarian efforts is when he served as the U.S. head of Food Administration during World War I. He was able to lessen the impact of starvation in Europe, and he provided a critical supply chain for the Allies. When I use the Hoover mentality, a multitude of issues come to mind. But the first issue that got me started in this scholarship and this project was science, education, engineering, and mathematics technology, STEM. According to the National Science Foundation, America ranks 8th out of the developed world for science and math test scores. 7 other countries are outperforming us in STEM education and innovation. The last time one country was outperforming us, we were in a nuclear arms race with the USSR. That is a national security issue. But how was I, an 18-year-old, going to address a national security issue? I simply can't. But what I can do is I can look towards my community. That's why I started working with the Ballard High School Student Council to create the STEM Carnival. I, along with my co-chair and 6 underclassmen committee members, worked to develop activities and find a venue for my community's 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders to come to a carnival and get excited about STEM education. For our activities, we would have the students determine whether molasses, Play-Doh, oatmeal, and slime are either solid or liquid. We would also have them do a water cohesion activity where they would use pipettes to place water droplets on pennies. It was a big hit when we did our STEM recruitment back on March 12th. For technology demonstrations, the committee would have given a drone demonstration and had the students done a day of coding activity. And finally, and for mathematics, the backbone of all innovation, my committee would have done a around the world addition and subtraction activity, along with an activity I created, the bucket of crickets demonstration. Our generation is going to face a lot of different challenges, from climate change to sustainability. But if we apply math and look at the numbers, we can determine which issues are costly and which issues are not. For example, it takes 2,000 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef, but it only takes 1 gallon of water to produce 1 pound of crickets. Simple mathematical inequalities like that can help my generation solve climate change and look towards more sustainable resources. Now, back to the projects. The STEM Carnival was supposed to happen on March 27th, the Friday after my school spring break. But for me, spring break never ended. So I had to determine what was I going, my co-chair will take over the STEM Carnival committee, and the STEM Carnival will run when the CDC guidelines allow us to, and the school faculty deems it safe. But in the meantime, what project was I going to do for this project? This question was nagging at my head as I was scrolling through my Instagram feed in late April. Then I came across the Turning Point USA Instagram page. I began doing some more research, and I learned that Turning Point USA is a national 501c3 nonprofit organization that educates America's youth in our public high schools and universities about capitalism, the Constitution, and the American way of life. Now, that's really political, especially in today's climate. Amidst all the political calamity we have, how will there be any calm? Using the Hoover mentality, I've decided I need to make a place for that calm. That's why I reached out to the national organization and I started my own chapter, Ballard Turning Point USA. Ballard Turning Point USA has 3 main missions. The first is to make a student organization that will last for years to come. The second, instigate civic virtue among my classmates. And the third, create an environment for safe and respectful civil discourse. In order to make sure that Ballard Turning Point USA will survive once I graduate, since I'm a senior, I enlisted the help of 2 underclassmen, Kemper Evers and Gunnar Peterson, to be the chapter's vice president and secretary. Kemper will take over the mantle of president, and Gunnar will most likely become vice president. In order to inspire civic virtue and actually see it in your community, you have to help out your community. That's why, when derecho hit, I mustered up my chapter to assist the city with the community cleanup. On September 11th, I had the chapter help create posters to commemorate the 3,000 victims that died on 9/11. I will make sure that our generation will never forget what happened that day. And probably the most important aspect of civic virtue is voting and having a say in our democracy. That's why the Ballard Turning Point chapter assisted school with our voter registration drive. Ballard High School is one of the top 20 schools in Iowa for voter registration. 90% out of all the kids that can vote in my grade, 90% registered to vote. This caught the attention of Secretary of State Paul Pate, and he awarded my school the Carrie Chapman Cat Award. Only 20 schools in the state of Iowa received this. And lastly, how do I create an environment for civil discourse? I have chapter meetings. The first chapter meeting was in July, and about only 11 young patriots showed up. They were slightly confused, but also very enthusiastic and interested about promoting their country's best interests. I educated them on what Turning Point does and what we can do in our community to help instigate civil discourse and make sure the American dream is still a reality. About 3 weeks ago, I had our school's first in-person meeting. 35 kids showed up. At this meeting and the meeting prior, I would treat the attendants to a meal, allow them to socialize, and then we discuss what Turning Point would do. And our most recent meeting we had was this Tuesday. There, I educated the kids about the Electoral College and why politicians either want to preserve or prune it from our Constitution. America is the shining city on the hill, and her light comes from her noble sons and daughters who give their lives and their labors to this country. Herbert Hoover is one of America's finest sons, and he is my personal hero. Using his Hoover mentality, he solved the issues of his day. I hope to use the Hoover mentality to solve the issues of mine. God bless you all, and thank you for your time. Thanks for having me, guys. It's awesome.
Questions?
Yes?
Well, you certainly jumped into a current issue, that's for sure. And now, will this group continue to meet monthly, or how will that work?
Right now, currently, since I just started this organization a couple months ago, I'm working with the underclassmen to determine what they want to do. This is just an example of the recruitment phase. I'm trying to get positive publicity and hopefully get a school endorsement, because right now the school does not endorse Turning Point. We're able to use their facilities, but they just don't want to get too political.
But Turning Point is a national organization, correct?
Yes, sir.
And who are its major funders?
Charlie Kirk founded the organization back in 2012.
Was he on the first slide? Was that he on
Yes, that was him.
your opening slide?
Mhm.
Is that Charlie Kirk?
Yes, sir. And even though he did speak, he was the first speaker at the RNC. Well, Turning Point is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We cannot support any partisans, just politics. That's what I love about it.
So very much like the League of Women Voters, then.
Yes.
Only you're aiming at younger. Are most of the chapters young school children, or are there all ages?
It's only high school and college students. There's some Turning Point chapters in the Des Moines metro area. I believe Downey Catholic and Ankeny Centennial has one. Iowa State has a chapter. University of Iowa has a chapter. And yeah, Central College also has a chapter as well.
Okay, Jack. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, guys.
It's my honor to